Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing part 2 of the series of gameplay videos on Panzer North Africa from GMT Games, designed by James Day and Fernando Solaramos. This is scenario number 57, Operation Brevity Duel at City Aziz, which took place in mid-May 1941. I did gameplay part 1 recently, and you can check that out on the channel. I will post a card here so you can see it. I also did a reveal / scenario setup video as well, and I'll add a card for that too, just in case you would like to start at the beginning. So in that video, you can skip ahead to where I start talking about the scenario and get the setup information, what the force composition is on both sides, all the special rules, all that stuff. And then in gameplay video 1, I went through the first 3 turns of the scenario, which was mostly movement because, the two forces weren't really within range of each other until turn 3. And we completed turn 3, so there was some combat in that, mostly one-sided as the British were not in range of the Germans, but the Germans were in range of some of the British recon forces. So we had a little bit of combat in that one, with the result that one unit was knocked out. We are moving on to turn 4. I am done with the preliminaries, and we're going to get right to gameplay. So I'm just going to move the turn marker here to turn 4. That did not work for some reason. There we go. Okay. We can hide this now. And so this is a look at the situation as it stands at the end of turn 3. We have these markers here. There it is. This is a moved marker indicating that this stack moved, and you can see there is a leader in there. And I need to talk about them as we move forward here, because I kind of skipped over actually using them during the combat, which was mostly on the German side, but going forward we'll use both. Now, this is a move, what you would call the spot move marker, so it shows that they have moved and they are spotted because, or easier to spot, I should say, although I'm not using the optional spotting rules, so spotting is fairly simple. I could use it, and I may show you how it works, just so you can see how it works, because it's not really all that complicated, but it's an optional rule, and I elected to kind of try to keep the advanced and optional rule overhead kind of low, only because if I use them, then I have to explain them, and it makes the videos longer, and I wanted to get more gameplay in. The nice thing about this system is it's very modular in terms of what rules you can and can't. I shouldn't say can't. Rules you can use and rules you can opt not to use, to kind of find that sweet spot for you in terms of complexity and playability, whatever that balance may be for you. If you really want to play, with everything turned on, this is a very complex game, but very in-depth as well. So, having said all that, we will move on to turn number 4 here, as I said. So I am going to remove all the commands, which is already done. And we're going to get on to turn 4. So here on our player aid card, if I flip to A and move over to the sequence of play, you see the first thing we have is spotting phase. So you see 4.1 in black. Black is basic game rules, and then 6.1 is advanced game rules. So in Rule 6.1, that deals with spotting in the advanced game, which is mostly wrapped around spotting the spotting for how leg and basically how non-armor spots. So here we have our spotting ranges, right? So V is vehicle, and the normal spotting range is 20. And these levels, you see these modifiers here like light cover -1. That means you go down a level. So our 20 would become a 10 if the target was in light cover. Medium cover would move it down 2. Heavy would move it down 3. The most negative impact you can have as far as modifiers is -5, and the most positive you can have is +2. So the extreme range you could theoretically spot somebody is 40, and the the closest obviously would be point blank essentially in the next hex, so 1 hex. Then you have this 7.7. This is the optional rule I was referring to, where you use the grade of the unit and you roll to see if you spot them or not. You roll the D100 and that would give you an adjustment. Now you can see you get a +10 for if you're a recon unit. Over here in the spotting ranges, you would get a +1 because we're shifting up and down rows here, as opposed to this one where we're just actually modifying the die roll. So enough about that. We will go and look at spotting. Now basically, these guys here, this one and this one, they fired, so they are, that provides a modifier, as does the moving. So again, if I bring this up really briefly, you can see spot move is a +2, spot fire is a +3. So those 4 units, I think there's 4, maybe there's 5, they're all going to be up in this area here. So they're definitely in spotting range. And so they're going to be spotted because, as I said, I'm not using this die roll in number 7.7. So as I mentioned, I wasn't using this, but I will explain how it works. So both sides have seasoned troops here, and you use this at the unit grade. So there are a couple of units on both sides. I think it's both sides. It may just be the British, but no, the Germans have veteran recon, and the British also have veteran recon forces. So both recon forces are veteran, which is obviously up here, right? So if you are at half or less of your spotting distance, which is over here, your spotting range, right? And it's 40. So we're definitely within 20 hexes. I already know that. You would roll, and if you rolled a 70 or less, you would spot. If you were more than halfway, you would use the 50, and you would need to roll a 50 or less. So that's pretty much how that works. And that's pretty much basically how this works. So I'm just saving some die rolls by just assuming that they actually spot successfully based on the range, as opposed to rolling. I mean, we could roll, but I don't know that it's actually worth it in this case. So in the interest of keeping it simple, we'll just say all of these guys can see each other now, right? You can check range if you wish to. There is a line of sight tool here. Obviously, if you're playing the board game, you would use a string or some other way to determine that you can do line of sight. But if we just went from, whoops, sorry about that. If we went from, whoa, wait, I always screw this up. If we went from here to, say, here, you see the range is 9. If we let go up here, it will actually, there we go. You can see range is 9. And then I can click this off again, and I will turn it off. I'm not showing the top part of the screen or the bottom, actually, with the toolbars to move left and right, up and down, as well as all the buttons for the various commands, including die rolls and so on and so forth. Trying to keep things as centered on the game board as possible so that it's more like a tabletop experience, essentially. All right, so we have completed the spotting, and everybody can see each other. Now we go to the command phase. So the first thing you do is determine available commands. In terms of how that works, you count up your number of units, and there is a table on here that I should just bring back, and it's right here. So it's seasoned is what we have, and then you get a number of commands based on how many units you have. So the Germans have 6, 8, 9, 13. Well, actually, right now they only have 8 on here. So you look at 8, and they get 5 commands. Now the British, on their side, they have 4, 7. They have 8 as well. They had 9, but they lost 1, so they are also at 5. So both sides have 5 commands, and their command range is 1 hex. So what we're going to do here is we move on to giving our units commands. Now, if they're in a stack, you can give them a command that would apply to the entire stack. So we could, actually, let me remove these now because we don't need them anymore. All right, so these are not I swore I rotated these, but I guess I did not. So they should be facing that way, and these guys facing that way. Because you have facing in this game, it's important because you're pointing your gun, especially in the case of some of these units that don't have turrets. Mostly your armored cars, those would be down here. We do have a knocked out marker. We did lose one unit in turn 1. That would be this guy right here, one of their unit 932 and an armored tank rifle equipped Daimler. So I'll just get rid of that. So we are, as I said, we are in the command phase. So for the Germans, now this is where you have to decide whether or not, what you're going to do, basically, right? So we can move, we can fire, we can put ourselves in Overwatch. We could do what's called a short halt, which is kind of a move and fire. I think what we will do is, let's set ourselves up. Let's do this. We're going to take our top unit, and he's going to move here. And then I'm going to take this guy, and he's going to actually make the move because they end up underneath their other unit. So I'm going to move this guy here. That costs us, let's see, go to the terrain effect chart, which is right here on the upper left. This is sand. The sand cost for a tracked vehicle, T, as you can see, is 2. So if we go back here, so that would cost 2. And this would also cost 2. And then, well, what I want to do is put him there. And then we're going to put this guy here. And we're going to put our tank here. And then we're going to rotate it. Actually, do this, and we're going to rotate it. We'll leave it this way, actually, pointing this in this direction. You get one free 60-degree turn per hex moved. So technically, he would have turned and gone in this direction and then this direction. And then when we moved into this hex, we turned 60 degrees to the right so that our gun is pointing down the road. This here is scrub. And if we go back to our terrain effect chart here, you can see for scrub, you get light cover. Now, he's not in the scrub because I couldn't reach it based on my movement factor. And the movement factor for this tank, which is a Panzer 3F, you can see the 4T 6-9. That is the movement for the various types of movement. The T indicates it's a tracked vehicle, and that's its over cross country, I guess, I think is what it's called in the rule book. Cross country movement rate. So they get 4 movement points. As I said, sand costs 2, so they could move 2 hexes, which is what they did. To move into the scrub, we would have to look up scrub and then say here, it also costs 2, but they don't have enough movement points to do that on this turn. So basically what the Germans are doing is they're going to spread out a little bit and try to set up some maybe flanking fire or whatever. The British will probably do the same thing and deploy spread out to kind of negate that. They have slightly better movement factors than the Germans do with their cruiser tanks. So the British have maneuverability. The Germans have, I believe, better firepower. Most of the British tanks are basically U.S.-made Stuart tanks that they call A-13 Mark IIs. And you can see that right here. A-13 Mark II. You can see the 5T, so they have 1 more movement point, but they have a 7 on the road, on the path rather, which is what the brown line there is that they're currently sitting on, and 11 on a road. There are no roads on either of these maps. This is map 29 and map 33. Neither of those have any roads on them. This is North Africa after all, and we are out in the middle of the desert, basically. So that's 1. Oh, wait, you know what? I screwed that up. That was not what I was supposed to do. So I'm going to put these guys back here for the moment and give them what I was supposed to do, which is give them a move order. And I don't think you can do that from here, so I have to pull that out. So I've given them a move order. The question mark indicates it has not been revealed to the opposition. Since we are playing this solo two-handed, basically, I will just put it on reveal. Now I'm going to clone it, and I'm going to move this one to this guy, because he will also get, actually, no, I'm going to put that on these guys back here, because they will both move. And this guy was actually here, but I want to put a fire order or an overwatch probably on here, and then put, I'll probably split these as well and do 2 with move and 2 with fire. Now, you're supposed to do this simultaneously. Both sides will put their orders out. They will be flipped over. If you're playing the board game against an opponent, you would have them flipped over onto their backs, which would show just command. So it's a command marker. You can also have no command, which means that the unit does nothing. There may be times when that is useful. This is not one of those times, because the enemy is close enough that we need to be doing something, whether we're moving, whether we're firing, whether we're in Overwatch so that we can take opportunity fire, essentially. All of those things have to factor in. So we're going to put a fire order. So let me just explain what I'm doing, and then we will do it. So these two, I'm going to split them. 2 will get fire orders, 2 will get movement orders. This guy's going to get a fire order. These guys have a move order. So I'm not really putting anybody into Overwatch this turn. And I'm also reducing who's going to be firing, because I want to have the ability to fire at the British while also basically adjusting my forces so they're spread out and I have more options in terms of possibly getting a side shot, because you get side, flank, rear is more vulnerable in many cases, and you want to take advantage of that if you can. Now the British are going to, of course, do the same thing, and I'm going to do my best for both sides to kind of build out, the force here. We also have reinforcements that can be coming on, and they will possibly show up pretty soon. So I'm going to pause here and lay out the commands for both sides. I'll come back and tell you what I did, and then we'll pick things up. Okay, so keeping in mind that we have 5 orders per side, right? We have the commanding unit, which is actually in this hex. They have a move order. The other unit in that hex has a fire order. Then on this side, all 4 of these get a short halt fire order, and these guys get, one gets an overwatch and one gets a move order. So the fire short halt, I opted for that to kind of show how that would work, and I'll show that here in a moment. And then up here we have, on the British side, our first stack, the bottom unit gets a fire order, and then the commander and the other unit both get movement orders. So that's 2 orders there. This guy gets a move order. And actually, you know what? I don't have to do it that way, because this guy was here. So we actually only used 4 orders, which means I could change this up, but I'm not going to. So we're using 4 orders. We got a fire order here for 1 tank. Well, now it says 2. That's fine. 2 get a fire order, 2 get a move order. These 3 all get a move order, and this 1 armored car unit gets an overwatch. He's in rough, which gives him some cover. If we look quickly at our terrain chart here, rough gives you medium cover. So medium cover is good for a -2. So they're gonna. It also affects your fire, the cover for taking fire, I should say. So that is the command phase, and I should have left that up because we can now move on and show the sequence of play. We go to the initiative phase. Now there are 2 items of business we have to take care of. One is determining initiative, but the other is determining if reinforcements arrive. According to our scenario rules, we roll on every turn, starting with turn 2, and this is turn 4. And in turn 4, if we roll a 0-1 to 60 on the D100, and both sides will roll, so they'll both have the same, the reinforcements, the rest of the forces from both sides, will be available to move on to the map. And there is, because we're in turn 4 here, there will be no victory point adjustment. So you won't lose any victory points, but nor will you gain any victory points. Because the longer you wait for your reinforcements to show up, the better it is for you in terms of victory points. If you wait through turn 6, which is the latest they can arrive, you gain 70 victory points. So we will roll first for initiative. So there are no adjustments because both sides are seasoned, and it says in the scenario rules to not adjust anything. So our first roll gives us a, what did it come up with here? I got to hide this again. A 100. So the British had initiative last turn, so I'll say that they rolled first because I didn't already. So the British rolled 100, so the Germans basically can't win it, but they rolled a 66. So because this goes from 0, 1 to 100 on the D100 roll. So that is a 100 for the British. They win initiative. Now we'll roll for reinforcements. We'll do the British first again. They got a 14, so their reinforcements are available, and the Germans rolled a 17, so their reinforcements are also available. If both or either side elects to bring them on board, they will not have any victory point adjustments. If we waited till turn 5, they would get 45 additional victory points. So you kind of need to weigh the advantages or disadvantages in terms of victory points. The British have already lost a unit. The Germans have not lost anyone yet, so British might be more inclined to wait, but by waiting, they're also going to possibly face the Germans bringing in even more units and having even more issues. So they'll all get movement orders, all the new units, if they get brought on, and we don't need to worry about counting up commands or anything. They're allowed to move onto the board. So I will make that decision here in a moment. If we go back to our sequence of play, we come to the first air phase, and we don't do that because we don't have any aircraft in this scenario, so we will skip both first and second air phase. We will go to the combat phase. We do not have anybody capable of indirect fire. We don't have any mortars or artillery or anything like that. And then we go to direct fire. Now you have to determine who's the first player and who's the second player. In this case, the first player would be up to the British. If you win initiative, you don't necessarily have to become the first player. You could elect to become the second player because the second player gets to move first in the movement phase, while the first player, of course, gets to fire first. And so in this case, the British are going to elect to be the first player because they have, I think, a couple of, if I remember correctly, a couple of movement, fire orders rather. And if they can knock out a couple of these German tanks beforehand, then those Germans wouldn't be able to knock them out, right? So the flip side of that, of course, is that the Germans will then get to move first. So with having said that, we're going to get into the combat phase here. So we do have a couple of units here. And I lost my mouse again. This bugs the crap out of me. I can't see it sometimes. So here we have 2 of the A-13 Mark IIs have fire orders. Now, if we bring up our data card, we are looking for our, this is A13, so that's this guy right here, the B4A card. And you can see their gunnery range, and then underneath that is the penetration. They are using AP, armor piercing, ammunition, kinetic energy, 2-pounder guns. These are basically Stuarts. But whereas the Americans would refer to inches or millimeter guns, the British use pounders. It's a 2-pounder gun. It's not a particularly large gun. This is a Stuart tank, so it is a light tank, and it does not have a ton of firepower or penetration power. However, as you get closer, you can see the penetration number gets better, right? So let's determine our range. So we're going to take these guys, and they're both going to fire. They will fire separately. And they're going to fire at our tank in this hex right here. We have 2 possible targets. Let me reveal their order. Just because, like I said, it really doesn't matter if the orders are revealed or not. Their fire order should also be revealed. So they're going to fire. The first unit to fire will be this guy right here. And so basically we need to determine the range, first of all, which I can do easily if I count, but I'll use the line of sight tool. And now you can see the range is 8. You also see it next to that scrub right here. And if we look at our terrain effect chart, if we go to scrub, on. Go to scrub. It is light cover. It, in terms of blocking line of sight, you look at height, and the height is 0, so it will not block line of sight. So we do not have to worry about that having any impact on their ability to either fire at or see this unit. All right, so we know that that's good. The range is 8. So if we go away from that, bring our data card up, 8 would be medium because it's more than 5 and less than or equal to 9. So their range will be 9, and if they should hit, their penetration will be 10. Now, if we look at the Germans, this is our target is a Panzer 3F, I believe. Yes, Panzer 3F. So we go to the Panzer 3F. Here's our data card. It is, its armor is all less than 10. So a hit will penetrate, and then we would have to roll on this chart right here on the AP to determine the result of that fire. So let's go back out here. And so when we do combat, so to determine our hits, we look here at the AP hit, okay, and then the AP hit modifiers. So this is really straightforward. So you start with a net mod of 0 and you look at the range. So he has a 50% chance of hitting at this range. That's his base number. Now you look at what the target was doing. So the target fired last turn, and he's not. Oh wait, he does have a move order, so he is moving, if I remember correctly. Yes, he has a move order, so they're firing at the moving target, which is the command tank. They could fire at the other tank, but we'll say he's firing at the movement, which is target moving is a -2, so that would move it down here, and he'd have a 40% chance. Now, if we look at the data card for the size of the unit, so we look in our defensive information section here, and you can see the size right here is a 0. So there is no impact from the size of the vehicle. So we stay in the -2 column. Now, they are not in cover. They're on a path in sand, so that does not give them anything. Okay, so they're going to have a 40% chance of hitting. So let's hide this for a second. We're going to roll our D100. They rolled a 21, so that is going to be a hit. Now, if we pull up the card again and we look at the British, the rate of fire is Q, which is quick. Now, in this case, they rolled a 21, which is too high to get 2 hits. So they do score a single hit, but it is possible if your rate of fire is Q to get more than 1 hit, which actually happened in part 1. And you can see that down here, number of hits. If it's a Q and the hit range is 40 to 49, you have to roll a 0, 1 to 11 to get more than 1 hit. So we will continue on. Now, hit locations. Okay, so we need to know the angle. It's going to be front. I can tell without even looking because of where the shooter and the target are. It's front arc because actually, he's pointing this way. So it might be, let me check real quick. That is actually front side. So we come out here, front/side. We're going to roll a D10, and this number will tell us where it hits the tank. So let's roll our D10, and it is an 8. Now if we go back here, an 8 on front/side is HS asterisk. So it is a hull side hit, and if partial hull down, all hull and track hits are hit treated. He's not hull down. I haven't talked about hull down. We will, I hope, at some point get to a point where I might want to do that. So this is a hull side hit. Now if we go back to our data card here, let's go back to the Germans. So looking at this here, you can see you've got that we were hit by KE, we know that. and we were hit on the front hull side. The armor there is a 7. 7 is obviously less than the 10 firepower that the British have at that range. So that does penetrate. And then you have to determine what kind of damage it does. Okay, before we finish, I wanted to mention this AP penetration optional rule here, Rule 7.12. Basically, you look at your penetration number. In our case, it is a 10. So we're in this bottom row here. And the most adjustment you can get is a plus or minus 2. So you could go to a 12 or an 8, depending on what you roll. You roll 2 D10s. And if your results are 1 through 4, you look in the column and you subtract. So you roll 2 D10s and you take each die separately. So let's say we rolled a 2 and a 7, right? So the 2 would be a minus, and we look at the bottom here, and we would subtract 1, making it a 9. And then for 7, it's a 0, so we wouldn't add anything back. But if it had been an 8, you'd add 1 back, and you would still be back at 10. But so you could, if you rolled 2 9s, say, or a 9 and an 8, you'd get a plus 2. If you rolled a 2 and a 3, you'd get a minus 2. And you can have all kinds of variations there. So there's a little variability in it if you wanted to do that. And you roll that before you roll for the hit location. So we know the hit location was front side. In this case, with a 10 penetration and a 7 armor, you can't get to minus 3 where it would not penetrate, or minus 4 where it would not penetrate. So it penetrated, and the tank now has to roll for the result of that. So to determine what happens, we would go to the unit's data card for the firing unit, which is the British one. We fired AP. We're going to roll a D10, and this will tell us 1 to 3 will be no damage. 4 to 6 is damaged. 7 to 10 is knocked out. There is no possibility of brewing it up. So we will roll our D10 for the British here. And it is a 7. So a 7 is a knocked out. So that is a knockout for the British. Now, one thing I neglected to do it again, because I always forget, is the effect of the leaders. All right, so we had fire from this unit here, right? He is stacked with his leader, so he would actually get a bonus for AP combat. He would get a +1 on his 2 hit number, which would actually have made it a 50%. So that actually worked out okay, but it wouldn't have mattered because the roll was low enough anyhow. Now on the flip side, the German leader, he does not affect anything defensively. His unit was still hit. It was still destroyed. Okay, so we know the tank has been knocked out, and it is right here. And we're going to say knocked out. Now we'll also have to remove this guy because he has been destroyed with his tank. And their move command can obviously be deleted. And let's rotate this. Whoops. There. So I'm going to leave that in here. It's going to go on the bottom ultimately. There are 2 other tanks. Wait a minute. Were there 3 tanks in here? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We should have 5, 8, 9. Yeah, okay, we're good. We are good. All right, let's put this guy, let's just do that. All right, so we have a knocked out tank. They also have a knocked out tank up here of their own. Like so. This guy has now fired. We'll do the other one. He's going to target the same hex. He'll attack one of these other tanks. So we go through the same routine. We know it's going to be a 40 on the die roll. Actually, it's not because of the impact of the commander, or the leader rather. He's going to give them a +1. So instead of 40, it'll be 45. So they need a 45 to hit. And they get a 91, so they miss. So these 2 guys will be marked fired. And let's see here. Let's move these guys off for a second so I can remove this. And we're going to put a spot fire marker on there. And a spot fire on there. So you don't have to actually put the marker on there. You've got the red dot that indicates that they fired, which is more than good enough. It just indicates that they moved basically, or took an action. So they took their action. That is the only 2 units on the British side that had fire actions. So now we can go over to the Germans. They have some fire actions of their own. This guy, for example, has a fire action. I'm still confused by the, like, did I give both of these guys a fire action, or was one a move action? I think the other one was a move action. So this guy on top is going to have a move action, and this needs to be on the bottom, but let's just do it this way here. Do a quick adjustment. Boom, boom. Put these guys back. I'm going to put a move marker on him. That's easy enough to do. We'll just clone this guy. We'll take this and put it on here. And we're going to move these guys. Actually, let's do this. Take this, put it on top of that, and we'll take all of that and move it here. Now we can have our fire guy. He's right on top, right here. So he will be firing, and he's going to fire at their command tank. Why not? What goes around comes around. He does have a move marker on him. So if we come back out here, right, we're looking for our hit number. Of course, we start at 0. The ranges we know is medium. I think the German tanks have close to the same stats. This is a Panzer 3F. Medium is 9, so that is the same. Their penetration, however, is only a 6. So that's going to make this tough, because if we look at the British, front, yeah, it's going to be equal. Well, it's going to be better than hull side. So track side, or turret side rather. We've got turret front, turret side, turret rear, hull. Right, okay. And it's level fire. I didn't mention that before, but we're on the same level, so it is level fire. All right, so they do have a shot at hitting them at least, or doing damage, of having some penetration. So the shooter, the target is moving, so we go down to -2, which makes it a 40. They are not in cover. Shooter is not damaged. The shooter is not suppressed. None of that applies. None of this. There's no brew up smoke or anything like that. They're not in Overwatch. And yeah, so all we have is, and we're not using the shooter grade. So we're in -2. We need a 40. If our commander were still alive, he would make it a 45, but he is not. So we will roll our D100, and we got an 89, so he has missed. So we're going to delete this, and we're going to mark him as fired. Now we got the fire short halt orders here. And let me reveal that just so we get rid of the question mark. I'll do the same here. So he's got this whole stack, I think, has this order, if I remember correctly. Yes, the whole stack has a fire short halt order. So how does that work? So basically, the main difference here between a short halt and a regular fire is you fire in the firing phase, the combat phase, direct fire phase of combat, and then you can move up to half of your movement during the movement phase. So they're able to do basically fire and move, right? Very straightforward. So we will have our first, we'll start with, and you have to fire at the closest unit. So we're going to fire at the command tank here in this same hex. So we have the same exact situation, except that we are at range 10, I believe, which is probably going to mean that this is just a waste of orders, if I remember correctly, because our 10 is a long-range shot because it's more than 9. So that would move the penetration down to 5. So per Perhaps we'll use the variable penetration for this, just that, we'll throw that optional rule in just because I know we haven't been using it, but it would be a good example of being able to show it at least. So let me hide this again. And we'll go here. Now we have to go to our other side here. So we start here, we go down to a 40. We're in long, so it's actually a 24. So it's a 24 or less because we're at -2 because the target is moving. So we roll our D100. Let's hide this for a second. We know we need a 24 or less. And we got a 25. So that's a miss. We'll take the second one. He gets a 22, which is a hit. So the first guy fired. So let's mark him as this guy has spot fire. He's fired. Now we go to this guy. He is now firing. We'll mark him as fired as well. And his shot actually is going to hit. So we need to go and figure out everything about this particular thing. So we know he's firing at long range. His penetration is a 5. We look at the data card for the British. Their armor at long range, their armor is rather... So we need to roll for the hit location. Now before we do that, as I mentioned earlier, we can roll for penetration. So his penetration is a 5. We know that. So we're going to roll 2 d10s, and we'll take both values. So let's hide this for a moment. And we'll roll one d10 is a 7, and the other is a 2. So they're going to cancel each other out because a 7, if we look again at our chart here, 7 gives you a... Actually, they don't. It makes it worse. It's a 0. And a 2 is going to be a -1, which makes the penetration a 4. And so that's even worse. And the only place they can actually hit will be the turret side, I think. So if we go back to our data card here, yes, hull side is going to be a 3. So they need to hit hull side to actually hit this sucker. So to roll here, we're on front side, and to get hull side, we need a 7, 8, or 9, because they're not hull down. So 7, 8, or 9 will be hull side. So we're going to roll that right now, our D10, and we got an 8. So that is actually a hit. So now we go back to our German card, and we roll on the damage. It was AP, so we're again going to roll a D10. And we rolled a 7, and a 7 here is a knockout. So both sides now have lost their commander. That's on me. I should have moved this guy. So he is knocked out. 1, 2, plus 4 is 6, 7, 8. Yeah, and we're supposed to have 9. So we did remove, and he should have gone actually into the eliminated box. So let's see. We got damage. He's knocked out. Now I'm going to take that away for a moment, and we're going to take this guy, who is our command tank, and we're going to put him in the eliminated box here. And we'll put him right here with his buddy. They've lost 2. I need to put a German in there as well. This guy is eliminated. I'm just going to delete him. We're going to rotate that, and we're going to put that on the bottom, but I'm going to move these guys first. Put that on the bottom. Move these guys back, like so. Now, this guy and this guy have fired. I don't know why they lost. Oh, because I moved them, they lose that. So let's put spot fire. Spot fire. And the other guy is going to be a spot move. Actually, he should be spot fire. And we're just going to move him out, which will remove that, and then we'll put this on top again. Okay. Now I need to copy the German here, so let me do that. Here we go. I'm going to clone, and we're going to take this guy, and we're going to put him here. And we're going to do 1, 2. So we have our British losses here, our German losses here. All right. Now, right, we were actually over here. We're actually over here. We've had 2 of our units fire. We go to unit 3. They will also fire at this stack. We already know we need a 24 or less, so we roll, and we get an 84, which is a miss, and an 82, which is also a miss. So both of these guys will get marked. Spot fire. He's already marked. I think it's the bottom one. Did I already mark everybody? Yeah, okay, they're all marked. They've all marked as being fired. They're all marked with the red dot there, and now we have Overwatch fire. We have 1 guy left who has Overwatch fire. The British also have 1 Overwatch fire. So let's reveal that. So Overwatch fire comes after direct fire, if I remember correctly, from our sequence of play. Let's flip it to the other page. And the other page says, yes, first player, second player, Overwatch. So we go to Overwatch fire. So let's hide this and do Overwatch fire. One thing to note here is that Overwatch fire is voluntary, and you can do it during the movement phase. So that is what both sides will opt to do here, largely because of the ranges involved. So our Overwatch unit here, he is pretty far from the Germans. If we were to do this, you can see his range is 13, which isn't great. And conversely, the German unit down here, his range, his range is 15 there and 11 here, which is still long range. So I think we'll wait, and this is true of both sides, wait for somebody to move a little closer, I think is what we're going to do here. So that's that. So that would then finish the combat phase, and we would move to the movement phase. Now in the movement phase, we don't have any close assault. So our movement and overrun step starts with the second player, which is of course the Germans. Now we can address the reinforcements that come on, or we can do the unit movement on the map, however we wish to do it. If we slide over here, I did bring out 1 other leader for the Germans. I need to bring another one on because we do have 2 additional companies for the Germans. They will bring their medium panzer company. So if I load up my German units here, right, this would be this group right here. So what we'll do is we're going to take our HQ and we're going to put it on top of this guy, and they're going to go up here for now. Whoops. Ugh, you're driving me crazy. There. All right. Now this group will go here. This group will go here. And then for this one, let's put him here. Let's put him here. Let's put them there. And we'll put them down at the bottom. Oh, maybe we can't. Let's just do it like this. All right. Germans off-board setup done. I need to pull out a leader to stick with this guy. These are the Armored Car Company, Veteran Recon. So they are PSW 222s and 1 single T231. The Medium Panzer Company is comprised of 5 Panzer IV-Fs, one of which is the command vehicle. It's this guy up here. So these are Panzer IV-Fs as well. And the other one is a Panzer II-F, which we have not yet seen either of those, I believe. Oh, we have. We do have a couple of Panzer IIFs on here right now. They are down here in this area right here. So that's the German reinforcements. Now let's look at the British reinforcements. We'll slide over to the British side of the map. And we'll bring so these are the British forces that they will get to bring on. And they already have leaders. They have Matheson, who will go with this guy. Actually, we want that on top of that and put that here. And then we have Burton. And we'll put this on top of Burton and bring that guy back over here. So here is their recon, which is the Armored Car Squadron, Veteran Recon, of course. And then they have their Light Cruiser Squadron here, which is comprised of A-10s and an A-9. So we have A-10 Mark IIs, a couple of A-10 Mark II CS, and then some more A-2s, or Mark IIs rather, A-10 Mark IIs, and then an A-9 Mark I. There are 3 of those. That's these guys down here. So for now, I'm going to leave these guys in their window because it is the Germans' movement phase. So we will just go back to the Germans and move them on. They are going to enter through this hex right here. So we've got our command tank here, which has Hauptmann Schultz, I believe. I think he's a Hauptmann. I would have to look at the optional book, which has the names and ranks of all our leaders. And Hauptmann Schultz is a Oberleutnant, so he is basically an equivalent of a U.S. Army first lieutenant. And then I'll have to pull out a lieutenant for the other unit. So I'm going to actually do that right now off map, or off screen rather. Okay, so here is Lieutenant Wagner. He has the pink stripe on his rank badge, which indicates he is a Panzer leader. So we're going to drop him on here. And we'll just drop him down there like that. And now we have all our Germans ready to go. So these guys have a 6 movement rating on paths. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to drop them here, mark them as spot move, which turns the symbol here, the dot, into the German cross. And we'll take these guys. There are 4 of them, so they can actually move in with the commander. Let me actually put them here. Even though that's going to reset his spot move, we're going to move these guys here. And then I'm going to drop this guy on top. And we're going to put them all as spot. Well, let's do it all as spot move. There. These guys will follow on. They have a 6 as well, but they're going to stop 1 hex behind. And they'll get marked as spot move. Then these guys have a 19, and this again is our headquarters now. So tough thing here, their over terrain is a 7, I think. It's a little hard to read, but I think that's a 7. Let's pivot. Yeah, it's a 7. All right, I also forgot to pivot these guys. These guys all need to pivot counterclockwise. Yep. I think. It's hard to tell which way the gun is pointing. I think that's backwards. That is backwards. Now it's right. All right, so this guy is going to come on 1, 2, 3. Now he's wheeled, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And our commander didn't come with, and I want to rethink this anyway. So we're going to move him back here. And let's see. if we go into the sand, now one thing I didn't talk about was bogging, right? But we have sand here, and for wheeled, it's a movement cost of 4. That's what really sucks. Like, these guys need to stay on the road because that's rough right there. Their off-road is only a 7. So, but by the same token, I don't want them getting brewed up, or not brewed up, but knocked out by the British tanks. So this is going to be interesting. As far as bogging down, I'll talk about that in a bit. We also have hull down, which I have not yet tried to do, but that might be worthwhile as well. You can try to be hull down, which of course gives you defensive benefit, and I might try that. You know, since this is kind of a meeting engagement and we don't really have an aggressor per se, both sides are really trying to move past the other side, so to speak, right? Because you get victory points for exiting off map. So let's, I'm going to actually stop my, well, we need to put this, let me move him here. We're going to move this guy here and we're going to rotate him. I'll put that there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we'll rotate them again. That would be counterclockwise. Whoops, wrong unit. Wrong unit. It's this guy. There. Now we're going to take this guy right here, and there are 2 of them, and we're just going to bring them in here as well. Stick them here for now. Do that. And then that. Ugh, I went the wrong way. Wait, no, I didn't. Yes, I did, because that's the front. They need to be upside down. Maybe we'll leave them right there. So that's 2. These are 2, and these are 2 as well. So we're going to put him here as well. And we'll rotate clockwise. These guys will go here. There we go. All right. And spot move. So all the Germans are now on. And now we have units that have move orders that we have not yet moved. So let's do this. We've got this guy right here on the bottom. Has a movement order. He's going to move. Well, let's see. He can move 1. Let's move him here. Then we will change our facing and go here. That costs 2. So that's 3, and that's really as far as he can go. Okay, so let's mark. There we go. Let's mark this guy as moved. And now we have this guy that we can move as well. So if he goes up the path, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Move, and we need the movement marker here. So then this movement marker goes with that guy. All right, these guys moved. And that is everybody from the German side. So we'll go over to the British now. And I'm going to bring the British units on. I think I'll do that off camera just to kind of keep things relatively short. And then I'll show you what we've got once I do that. All right, so our light cruiser squadron is up here with their commander, Matherson. And so they've got obviously 3 of the A10 Mark II CS plus the command tank, which is just an A10 Mark II. That's actually off screen, but it is there. Then we've got some more of those. There are 5 here, and there are 3 there. And then down here we have the armored cars with Burton in command. And he is in that, the one on the far right there, that is the Rolls Royce. Then we have a Morris CS9 and another Rolls Royce and another Rolls Royce. And then over here we've got some more Morrises and some more Rolls Royces. So these are their armored cars. And so that actually ends the movement for the Germans. So what I should have done, and I didn't do it, is have these guys fire. So let's take a quick look here and see what we would have had. So we're going to go here to there. The range is 9. So this is a Daimler. Okay, so let's pull up our unit card on the British data card. This is the Daimler. Where is it? It's not tracked. It's wheeled. This is the Daimler Dingo Mark 1A. Range is 9. That's extreme range. The penetration would only be a 3. So in this case, we're not going to worry about it for them anyway. And let's go back to the tracked vehicles just so that it's easier. Now, the British can move because the Germans are done. And we moved our reinforcements on. So let's move. We've got 2 units here we can move, even though all 3 have movement orders. Why is that first one marked as being already moved? I'm not sure, but these guys over here, one of them has a movement order, and the other 2 have fired. So we're going to do this guy, and he's going to move. And they have a rate of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Should we do a... Okay, so this, for the British, right, they're here. Now, if we scroll down here a little bit and go over a little bit, this is their objective hex right here for exiting the map, F10 on map 29. So they're not that far away from that. Now again, 5 tracked. If we were to go off here, this would cost 2, and we could go out to here, right? So let's just do that. So we're going to rotate counterclockwise, and he's going to go 1, 2. And then we'll do our free movement to turn him this way so he's kind of front on to this unit here. We're going to mark him spot move. And let's take his movement marker with him. And I'll clean those up at the end. So these guys had a fire marker, which I already removed. I'm kind of inconsistent with that, but since I'm playing against myself, I can kind of keep track of what I'm doing here. Anyway, so the goal here, I think, and let's talk about the bog thing that I have not been doing. It's I believe, an advanced, or an optional rule rather, for bogging down. So you have bog here, right? We're in sand. So if we were using the bog rule, for each sand hex you enter, you would roll your D100. And if it's a 1 to 20, you would bog down. That's a 25, and that's an 86. So he didn't bog down anyway. His move is done. These guys are done as well. Then we've got 3 units here with movement orders. I don't think that guy in the back fired. I think that's probably a mistake. So what I'm going to do is we're going to move him now. And I'm going to actually do, we're going to move 1, 2, 4. And we're going to leave his facing like that because that's ultimately the facing I wanted him to be at anyway. So we're going to mark him as spot move. Now these guys also have the same thing, the same order, of course. But these guys are going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to stop right here. Pinpoint range. We're going to mark him spot move. And this time we're going to have Overwatch fire from this unit right here. Our range is 7. Okay. I should have, because here's the other thing you need to do, right? We're firing from here to here, right? Now you look at the hex it passes through to come in, and that's going to determine whether it's front or front side, and it's front. Because this hex right here, based on his facing, is in front of him, and it passes through that hex. So our fire here is going to be at the front of this unit. And the range, as I said, is 6. So we know, if we look at our data card here, for the German, this is a Panzer IIF. Okay, Panzer IIF is a smaller tank, of course, with a smaller gun. It's only got a 20 millimeter gun. The range is 6. That's medium. The penetration power is a 4. Now, we do know that if we could hit the side of the British, that would actually possibly hit them. But because it's front or rear, we can't hit them in the rear. So we could only hit front. So turret front would be a 7, and hull front would be a 6. So we're not going to fire because we won't hit him. So we're just going to hide that. He's marked as being moved, and now we're going to take this guy, and he's going to do the same thing, and he's going to come down here. And we also know, again, that this guy can't hit him. So we're going to mark this one as moved as well. We're going to drop our movement marker on top just because we can. And that actually completes the second turn. Because if we go back to our turn sequence, you can see after the movement phase, you have second air, which we don't have. Then you have adjustment phase where you can pivot, adjust the turret. That's an optional rule. Adjust full cover, suppressions, morale, etc., etc. We're not worrying about any of that stuff at this point. So we are going to go to the end turn. And that's basically going to end this turn, of course, as you would expect. So when I said adjust remove counter step, that is not true because we do need to remove the command counters. So let me remove that, and then we remove the command counters. Reveal, and then we can remove. So all the command counters go away. Now you see, so this guy did not move, and it did not fire. Technically, when you have an Overwatch, unexecuted Overwatch fires, oh no, it's just fire. So Overwatch is fine to not execute, but any short halt or fire orders or move orders all have to be executed before the turn ends. So in this case, they have been executed, and we can end the turn. So that would bring us to turn number 5. Now this has gone longer than I thought it would. So I'm going to actually end the video here. Depending on how many views it gets, I may continue this and move more to an AAR format where I'll do shorter kind of turn recaps and not show as much of the game and not talk as much about all the mechanics and how things work. Because I hope after a couple hours, if you watched both of these videos, if after a couple of hours you don't know how the game works, then you might not get it. I'm not trying to put anybody down or anything, but I mean, you've seen most of the mechanics that I consider essential. There's obviously a lot more to this game. I mentioned this in the reveal video, but I would love to do the campaign from this game, which it's for Operation Battle Axe, and it sounds really interesting and cool, and I would love to do that. So that may be something I do down the road. But for now, that's going to do it for this one. So as always, if you have anything to say, feel free to say it via comments, questions, etc. All welcome. Thank you for watching, of course. I always like to say that because I do appreciate you taking time to watch my stuff. It is greatly appreciated. If you did enjoy it and would like to consider liking, sharing, or subscribing to the channel. If you're not a subscriber, that's also, of course, greatly appreciated. Thank you, as always, to my subscribers. You guys are important, and I'm glad that that you've decided to kind of sign on for notifications at the very least of any new stuff that I may do. But yeah, that's it. I'm Joe. This is Hext Encountered. It is Tanktoberfest, and we're reaching the end. So we will soon be done with Tanktoberfest and on to November, and we'll see what November has in store for us. But for now, I'm Joe, Hext Encountered, signing off. Happy gaming.